Everyone thinks they understand this painting. It's the most famous painting in America, and the second most widely recognized painting in the entire world. It looks like an homage to a traditional farming way of life, but the reality is anything but that. This painting is charged with erotic imagery, and it actually attempts to push back against religion and sexual repression in the American way of life. First, the couple isn't even a couple at all, and the way the woman's looking at the man isn't that of a loving wife. It's a look of shame and suspicion. Grant Wood painted coded but shocking sexual imagery in most of his paintings, and I'll explain that here. This painting is called American Gothic, and it hangs today in the Art Institute of Chicago. To understand it, we need to understand a little bit more about the painter himself. Grant Wood was born in 1891 on a Quaker farm in the state of Iowa. His father, Maryville Wood, was a stern Quaker who believed that art was a waste of time. When Grant drew pictures, his father destroyed them. When Grant was 10 years old, his father died of a heart attack. He spent the rest of his life painting in the shadow of a man whose approval he could never earn, and whose disapproval has shaped, permanently, the thing about himself that he was forced to hide. He hid it in his persona, he hid it in his daily life, and he hid it in plain sight in nearly every painting he ever made. In 1930, he painted his masterpiece, American Gothic. The first thing to understand about this painting is that the couple isn't a couple. The man is actually Wood's dentist, Dr. Byron McKeeby, 62 years old. The woman is Wood's own sister, Nan Wood Graham, 32 years old. Wood staged his sister and his middle-aged dentist as a married farming couple. The house behind them is also not what it seems. Wood found it on a drive through Eldon, Iowa, and what caught his eye was the Gothic arch window on the second floor, a cathedral arch grafted onto a tiny working-class farmhouse. A poor Iowa family had tried to make their plain wooden house look like the architecture of medieval bishops. Ordinary people dressed in their Sunday best, performing an elegance that wasn't really theirs. Nan was unsettled by the painting for the rest of her life. She spent decades insisting the figures were father and daughter, anything but husband and wife. Look at her again now. She isn't posing, she's watching him. She's watching to make sure he doesn't slip. The brooch at her throat is a cameo of Persephone, the goddess dragged from her mother into the underworld. And it was her mother's. Nan would spend her brother's whole life policing him, the studio, the bachelorhood, the men he loved, and she would spend the 50 years after his death burning his letters and suing anyone who suggested who he really was. She believed she was protecting him, out of love, out of shame, out of the conviction that what he was had to be hidden for his own survival and his artistic legacy. She's not his wife. She's his warden. And in the painting, just like in life, her eyes never leave him. And the man she's guarding in this painting has another secret. Dr. McKeeby looked uncannily like Maryville Wood, Grant's dead father. The Pitchfork is held by a reconstruction of the father Wood lost when he was 10, and there are symbols all throughout it. If you'd love to have American Gothic in your home, you can find a high-quality print of it through the link in the description. The prints on my website are produced with extraordinary care for color and detail, so you can begin your own art collection and turn your home or your office or your study into your own personal museum with great masterpieces selected by me, just like this one. Shipping is completely free worldwide, and every purchase helps me enormously to keep making videos just like this every week. All right, let's continue. The Pitchfork. It has 3 tines. It stands planted in the dead center of the canvas, between the man and the woman. And it is everywhere else in the painting as well. It's in the seams of his overalls. They echo the 3 tines exactly. It's in the Gothic window with the same tracery. The entire composition is built around this one shape. So remember that: sturdy, erect pitchfork, and 3 tines that represent 3 different entities. So here's what scholars, and finally the Whitney Museum in New York, have said out loud. The pitchfork is a phallus, and Grant Wood put phallic forms in nearly every painting he ever made. In Saturday Night Bath, a shirtless farmer dips a bucket into a curved trough beside a fallen log. In Breaking the Prairie Sod, a farmer grips an upright plow handle at his crotch while the woman beside him turns away. And in The Spring Turning, from 1936, the rolling Iowa hills, once you see it, you can't unsee it. They become the contours of a man's back and buttocks lying across the canvas. When Spring Turning was exhibited, one critic attacked it in print as, in his exact word, queer. And Wood couldn't stop painting it. But here's what no one noticed for almost 90 years. The pitchfork isn't just a phallus, it has those 3 tines. Remember, 3 of them. And Wood was raised a Quaker, the religion of his father, the religion of the Trinity. Religion and desire in the same shape. The same object he longed for was the religion that told him he was damaged for longing. Look at the 3 tines against the seams of the overalls below. The 3 points, the 2 diagonals beneath, they form very clearly the letter W. Maryville Wood. W. Grant Wood signed the central object of his painting with his father's initials. And by the way, what an ironic name, Maryville Wood, for the father who repressed the son. So look at it again. 1 object 3 tines for the Trinity, the phallic form of his forbidden desire, the W of his dead father's name, religion, sex, and authority, the 3 forces that had shaped his entire hidden life. He could not paint one without painting the others. Iowa in 1930 wasn't a metaphor. Sodomy was a felony there, punishable by 10 years in prison. And 1 year before Grant Wood painted American Gothic, Iowa passed a law allowing the state to forcibly sterilize anyone judged a moral or sexual pervert. 891 Iowans were sterilized under it before the law was overturned. And that is why he painted everything in code. Finally, in 1939, Grant Wood painted a male nude. It was called Sultry Night, a farmer pouring a bucket of water over himself under the stars. The United States Postal Service ruled it obscene and refused to ship it. So Wood took a knife to his own canvas, cut the nude figure out, and burned it. He never painted another male nude. Grant Wood died in February of 1942 of pancreatic cancer. The truth was never spoken aloud in his lifetime. American Gothic is the most parodied painting in American history. Postcards, cartoons, Halloween costumes, and advertisements. We made it ours by laughing at it. But here's the reason it doesn't stop being famous and probably never will. We didn't fall in love with the couple. We fell in love with the emotion, with the subtle pieces of information that we somehow gather coming through from Grant Wood, and we can somehow apply it to our own lives, even though we didn't share the same struggles. Grant Wood took the 3 forces that had ruled his entire life: religion, desire, the father he could never escape, the state that persecuted him, and painted it in a way that somehow speaks to everyone's struggles, to everyone's suspicions, and to most Americans' conflicted sense of identity. He somehow compressed everything, all of these elements, into a single upright shape in the middle of an Iowa farmyard. And here's the extraordinary thing about art. It reaches across centuries in coded language and finds the people who are finally ready to read it. The same year that Wood painted American Gothic, he painted another picture for an 18-year-old assistant that he loved. And on the young man's sleeve, in plain view, a single butterfly. In Paris, where Wood had learned the code, Papillon, butterfly, was the word for a gay man. The painting hung for almost 90 years before anyone said out loud what it meant. In 2009, the same state that had once written sterilization into its law became the third state in the Union to legalize same-sex marriage, and the only one to do it by unanimous court decision. Iowa, the state Wood feared his entire life, was the state that voted to let him live. We can love the hard-working heritage Grant Wood came from, the farms, the faith, the Sunday best, the cathedral window grafted onto a plain wooden house, and at the same time, we could recognize what it cost the people inside of it. American Gothic isn't an indictment of America, it's a record of who we were, and the proof that we've been listening, one slow generation at a time, to the painters brave enough to bury the truth where we would eventually find it. So look at American Gothic one more time. The pious face, the upright pitchfork, the woman watching, and the painter standing just inside the frame, telling you everything he wasn't allowed to say out loud. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and there's one more three-pronged symbol in the painting that I didn't talk about. Can you find it? Thanks for watching all the way to the end, and I'll see you in the next video about another masterpiece where we decode the symbols.